Thank you, Guy. And of course, we're now joined by Ihor Zhovkva, who is the lead diplomatic advisor to President Zelenskyy. Mr. Zhovkva, I know that President Zelenskyy has said that today, this is not just Russia's victory. The Ukrainians also fought very hard, by the way, to defeat the Nazis. But if you look at that speech from Vladimir Putin, he did not declare war in Ukraine. There's no full mobilization. How do you interpret that? Is it de-escalation or just the fact that, well, this war is not going well for Russia? They can't declare a full war because they're not able to do it on the ground?
Well, first of all, thank you. You rightfully mentioned that Ukraine was also participating actively in World War II and fighting Nazis, and that's also speaks that this victory is also Ukrainian victory, and so we are not refusing from it. Ukrainians know how to fight the wars. Right now, well, it's useless probably to analyze the words. It's better to analyze deeds of Putin. So that's why if you ask me whether this is escalation, no, because we see the intensive attacks in the Donbass. We see the intensive attacks in the south. We see still bombings and shelling of Ukrainian cities and towns. So no, it's far away from what you call de-escalation.
And sir, when I looked at that speech today, which of course you say it's propaganda and this is just for the Russian domestic audience, but when I look at what President Vladimir Putin said, he mentioned Donbass about 8 times, but he did not use the word Ukraine at all. How do you read that? Is it perhaps that this is now just about Donbass? This will be the focus? And where does that take the peace talks between Ukraine and Russia?
Well, we also noticed that the word Ukraine have not been mentioned, not a single time, but that doesn't mean that President Putin has forgot about Ukraine. Yet, just to remind you that the existence of Ukraine as an independent state is something which irritates him, and the existence of Ukrainian nation as a separate nation, which something that irritates him. But we remember the official statements that the second phase of the so-called special operation is the Donbass. So probably he reiterated the words or repeated the words which his generals were already saying. I don't know. It's hard to guess what was the deeper meaning. As far as the peace talks are concerned, nothing heard today from him, yes, but you know, the position of Ukraine, we didn't exclude ourselves from the peace negotiations, although hard it is now to be in the peace negotiations with the country, with officials of the country, which makes such an atrocity as the whole world saw in Bucha, Borodyanka, Irpin, and Gostomel. But once again, you heard my president several times, and he said the need should be to have these negotiations on the highest level. My president is ready for these negotiations. Unfortunately, once again, we see no readiness from President Putin himself to be a part of these negotiations.
And sir, when Vladimir Putin says this war was almost inevitable, and I've also heard repeatedly too from a number of Ukrainians that you almost feel this war was needed for the rebirth of Ukraine as an independent nation. When you look at this, is the war at this stage not just military, but also an existential question at this point for you?
No. We didn't we never were thinking or causing the war. Like he today said that that was some plans or whatever to liberate this or that. No. Definitely, Ukraine was never for war. I mean, there are far many, other instruments to have the birth or rebirth of the nations. But the war has happened, and not this year. The war has started in 2014. Started with the occupation of Donbass and the occupation of part of the Donbass and occupation of Crimea. So that's why we are waging this war for already 8 years. It's an open war which started on the 24th of February this year. But we will fight this war. We will definitely win the war. And yes, right, you are here, that it will give additional boost to Ukrainian nation and to Ukrainian economy.
Mr. Zhovkva, Guy Johnson in London. To your point, the US is briefing right now. Russia still making little progress on the ground in Ukraine. We just spoke to a military specialist who feels that a turning point could be very close in this conflict. How close to that turning point are you, where you start to push the Russians out of Ukraine?
Very close, right? You are. They are trying to make an advances in the Donbass or in some parts of the southern Ukraine, but those advances are very little, if any. And sometimes they make advances, and immediately next days the territories are taken back by Ukrainian forces. The turning point is very close. What we need now immediately is the more inflow of weapons, which would help us to win on field, not only in Donbass, not only in southern Ukraine, to liberate the temporarily occupied territories, but in the whole war. That's why those days or weeks coming ahead will be very critical. And we're hoping the support of our Western partners or our Western allies in providing us the weapon which we need. Every our partner, every our ally know concrete needs of Ukraine on ground, on field. So that's why, provided that this inflow is taking place, we will be very close to turning point and to victory.
Can I just jump in one final quick question as well from here in London? We were listening to the Deputy Treasury Secretary speaking a little bit earlier in the United States, and he was talking about this idea that the US has a twin objective here. It wants to provide weapons so that the Ukrainians can force the Russians out, but it also wants to degrade Russian military capability to the point at which Russia can no longer pose a threat to others. Do you worry that Ukraine is being used for that second purpose?
Well, we're defending our territory. This is the utmost goal for Ukraine, and we cannot act in any other possible way. We have to defend our territory. We have to defend our land. It's nothing, no one else would do it, neither country. The country could always help us by supplying the weapons, by introducing sanctions, by the way. And that's probably what you're also talking about, because introducing sanctions and depriving Russian economy and military economy and military industry complex from their assets, from their ability to provide more weapons, more ballistic missiles, more fighter jets, more tanks, more artillery to fight against Ukraine. And yes, not only against Ukraine, because it will not stop them here in Ukraine, they will go further. But once again, Ukraine is ready to take this burden because we are in the forefront of this of this aggressor. But winning together, winning Ukraine, we will definitely win together.